Welcome to Simon on the Sofa. Yes, the first conversation for 2015. And if you're watching this in a couple of years ahead of 2015, then wow, you'll just have to pick up from where we were back then, or that now, or whatever time it might be for you, depending on your perception of reality. So we are here. I'm very delighted to be with my friend this evening, Katie Rose. Hello, beautiful Katie Rose. Mwah.
Hello everyone. Hiya.
Katie Rose, I love you so much. Katie's shown up in true New Year's style, because I'm going to go with New Year's style. She's still rocking. She's got the party lights on. We've been hanging out here playing with the Google effects for the last 10 minutes, having a whole heap of fun. We might show you some of those Google effects a little bit later, but in the meantime, let's just have a round of applause. Exactly. Everybody loves my intros. So here we are, Simon on the Sofa. If you're the first time to watching one of these beautiful, transparent conversations, then just come on the journey, allow the conversation to just bob and weave and go wherever it chooses to go. I've been recording conversations now for over 4 years. There's 100 or more conversations to watch with magnificent people just like yourself, talking about a whole heap of different things, because no one conversation stays fixed on one topic. So each conversation is dynamic and different and transparent and is there for you. I started this project for you and for me as my quest of truth, to really dive deeper on you could say a self-realization, a self-discovery, a really yearning for I wanted truth, not just in my life, but I wanted truth in the world. And the way that I thought would be a great way to bring this to the world would be have conversations with different people from all walks of life to show that we're all the same, we all have the same fears, the same hopes, the same desires. We're trying our best to work out the mystery. And in that, when we can share openly and authentically, there's a real beautiful, you could say, healing, a real truth that comes through that's beyond actually any form of justification through words. So here I am. This is tonight. We tried doing this almost in the middle of last year, I think, and it just didn't happen for whatever reason. So Katie, I'd just love to throw it over to you and just say, just for everybody out there, just maybe just share, you know, how you're feeling in this moment and what's going on for you, and yeah, just say hi.
Well, hello, and thank you, Simon. You are just an extraordinary messenger of hope and inspiration, and you have been certainly for me personally, and I just want to thank you for inviting me and for inviting so many people to have these extraordinary conversations, because they're so valuable and they're so inspiring and uplifting. And I think we all need, as you say, to just know that we're allowed to be transparent, that we're allowed to be ourselves. And I just want to thank you first for creating that space and for all the support. I've known you from, I don't know how long, I was just trying to think actually, it must be a good few years, and it's really exciting to see the way that your work has blossomed and to have experienced your support also, and I always have appreciated your support of my work too, so thank you for that. And how I'm feeling right now is kind of tingly and kind of excited, and this is a new thing for me to do a googly hangy outy thingy. So it's brilliant, but I'm feeling very excited about the new year, and I know this is a time where we all say, okay, resolutions, intentions, but I just think that it's a great opportunity to just kind of, okay, really reflect on what's just been and what's just coming. And anyway, as you say, time is a pretty fluid thing, but we do have a point of reference to just say, hey, you know, let's just reflect, you know. So that's where I am. Been doing a lot.
Yeah, you're in a reflective state. There's a tiny, just a little thing. I don't know if you've got your volume on mic. You sound clear, but there's a tiny peak at the top, because Katie is a musician and she's a sound healer, and she does all beautiful things around and utilizing music and so on. So as you're peaking there, your voice is peaking because but because you're such a sound divine being, I'm going to have to give you the gong.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, I might have to give you a special trumpet. Fantastic.
I think we're just gonna. I think we're just gonna. It's not gonna end tonight now. Me and you are just gonna have fun on these. Everyone's gonna just be like, "Wow, I come to listen to a great conversation, and all I got was them guys swimming around."
Well, you know, there's only one thing for that, and that's to put a hat on. Yeah, do stuff, man, about the universe.
Yeah, you got that. You got that jesting going. Oh, man, listen, I'm just looking too cool for school.
Oh, love it.
Stop it, stop it, stop it. No, don't stop it. Never stop having fun, everybody. Like transformation and truth is so much fun. And I think one thing that I'd love to, as you spoke then about the times that you and I have maybe come together and found an element of support, maybe in each other's message, work, maybe also just you and I, because I'm always, the one thing about you, Katie, is even from pretty much very much the first conversation that you and I had, for whatever reason, I felt that it was a very open, loving, supportive conversation. You know, I know we met a few times. I met you at an event, and you gave me a CD, etc., etc. But I mean, the times when we've actually spoken, we've always shared transparently, and often, you know, I think I've probably jested a few times and said, "Oh, I wish we would have recorded that one," and you know, and that's been one of the reasons why, you know, I've wanted to have a conversation with you. So I know that you're passionate about transparency as well, and truth, and you know, and you've done musical events for WaterAid. I know WaterAid is a movement, a charity, if you want to call it a charity, that you support, and you know, your events are very much about supporting people to, you know, be the best they can and to explore themselves. So for me, I think that, as you could say, yeah, messengers, you know, it's a great word to use without being put into too many brackets with that, is that we're messengers of a generation that really want to show up and change. You could say shift, change, recreate new blueprints for our communities, society, and really civilization. Well, that's very much where my sort of interest is, and passion, and what gets me out of bed. So maybe just from your perspective, how, you know, where do you feel you are in this tool at the moment? Because I know so many people out there that are challenged by systems crumbling, and you know, just the changes so much right now. You know, it's the momentous time to be alive. So much information, so much change, so many different theories and ideas. The internet has opened up the whole world of, you know, beliefs, theories, concepts, and so on. So it'd be lovely to hear how you dance in that, and how you support people through those transformational changes. You know, that would be lovely if you're feeling that vibe.
Fantastic. I can go with that. Yes, there was a number of really amazing things in what you've just said, so I'm going to try and respond to each of them. Firstly, you flagged up about how important transparency and communication is to me, and I would say yes, absolutely. And I think the most important quality that I feel that we have to cultivate, and it takes time and we have to keep practicing because we're not conditioned to do it, is creating a non-judgmental space, so that we can speak into a space and know that it's okay to say whatever it is that we have to say. And that's the space that I endeavor to extend towards my clients, because I know that when we have a space where we feel we're not going to get judged, where we are safe, then we can start sharing who we really are. And most of us have had some sort of experiences back in the past, or even just within our own heads, of being judged. So when we kind of start healing that and working with it and acknowledging, yes, that's still a part of me, it's always it will be part of our experience, judgment, criticism, this is just part of the human experience, but it's not the be all and end all, and I can surpass that, I can go past that. And so for me, that is the real challenge with myself, my own practice. I've got to not judge myself as much as I can. I need to observe myself. That doesn't mean I just go, okay, anything goes, because I have ethics and I have got things that, according to me, are very important that I hold to. But it is about cultivating a place where I feel I've got space to breathe myself, and that then I can extend that to others. And I think then when you have that space, that safe space of support, then you have an opportunity to start, you know, going through the transitions that you need to go through. And it's about creating that space Because when everything is falling apart, when the shit hits the fan, you need to have that safe space, and you need to be able to come back to it, firstly, primarily within yourself, and have practices or creativity that support that, and then that extends out into having supportive people around you and having supportive experiences and life experiences and things that we're creating in the outward world. So I hope that's a start. That's where I...
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful because it's yeah, we're pointing again, no matter which person you listen to who's maybe giving some form of authority or giving some form, giving some form of expert in their field, if you want to use those terms, and I use them very, very lightly, but people are constantly pointing back to ourselves, which is what you're saying there. Come back to yourself first. Make sure that safe place is there. Make sure you've almost looked at yourself, looked at how you're acting, responding to yourself first and foremost, and then how that is mirroring out to the world or reflecting back into the world. Am I right in saying that? So like, come back home first.
Yeah, come back home. And the thing is, however, is that we're not islands, as so many poets and sages have said. So I've had crucial moments in my life where people have come into my life and made interventions that I possibly wouldn't have got to myself without that intervention. But something in me has to be open to that, because if I'm not open to it, then I might have just said, no way, I'm not listening to you. So I think we have to cultivate that openness, and when we have that openness towards ourselves, then those people can start showing up, then those mentors show up, then those helpful experiences show up, because we've made a little bit of space. And sometimes the space only comes through crisis. Something collapses completely and we're in a state of absolute... I mean, I know times when things have really broken down for me is when I've had to become suddenly really open to having help. And sometimes it takes as much as that. It takes a big trauma sometimes, or a big crisis to shake us up. But I do believe that, you can also cultivate that openness without having to go through something awful. You can cultivate that openness daily, so that then you're getting daily miracles, daily excitement, daily joyful experiences, daily things happening that, oh my goodness, because I've opened up, something else has become possible.
Yeah, something else becomes possible. And within that, what's your sort of feelings around this idea as well, where I think sometimes, and you could say that the self-development, spiritual realm, which has become, is also, we have to be very mindful that it's become very much a business for many people, and a commodity, and a multi-billion-pound industry, in terms of definitely from a self-help stroke spiritual perspective, and it's everything's sort of fallen into society's clutches of very consumerism and materialism at times. So when you're talking there, it's lovely that we find that place where we have the awareness that we are miracles, that we can be in that place of joy, inner peace, and able to maybe dance and weave and surf the experiences that life's going to throw at us. And what are your feelings around this idea of, like, really? And I probably know where you're going to go to some extent, because I know that you're very open with your challenges in life. Because one thing I know that you do, and when I read your blog and so on, is that it's how you embrace the challenges that I've always enjoyed. So you're not like, oh, I never feel angry, I don't feel sad, I don't feel trials, I don't get financial challenges, I don't get client challenges or musical challenges, or I know that you as an artist, you've wanted to get albums out there and you have albums already, but the challenges of those. So I just want to, what's your feelings around, it's not just about it being necessarily in this state of, joy, I don't want to be mindful of my words here, because there's a way of having, I know there's a way of having the inner peace that is not affected by anything, but I'm on about, like, like sometimes people get caught up, like, if I'm not happy, if it's not flowing, if it's not going really well, then then life's just a nightmare. Whereas actually the challenge is, if depending on how you react to them, give you an opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Well, challenge is what it says it is. It challenges you to rise to it. So any challenge that comes along is saying, right, are you going to step up? Are you going to step up? You know, and I don't mean that in a kind of military, come on, you know, no pain, no gain sense. But I do mean that challenge is about growth, and that we really do grow through challenge, and that I know that I've sometimes set myself deliberately really ridiculous challenges because I know that I will then have a huge growth process, or I've just known that I have to overcome them. And I don't think I've never met a human person yet who doesn't have challenge. So, and I think you're right, it is the perspective that we take on challenge, and we befriend it. I mean, I think ultimately it's all very simple, and I think one of the simplest ways that I've seen it put is Rumi's poem about the guest house, where he talks about you invite all of the guests within yourself to dinner. So that means you invite your fear, you invite your anger, you invite your jealousy. You don't say, be gone with you. You don't shut them out. You say, come to the table, let's all have a chat here. So, you know, that's, for me, that is a very potent metaphor, and it's not easy in practice. You know, it's when we have these very uncomfortable experiences, when we have traumas, when we're feeling really, really, really mad and angry and pissed and all those things that can come up, that's not comfortable. And I think, but it's really important to say yes to it. I think that is the simplest thing where I can put it. You have to say yes. You have to say yes to the challenge, even when it is really, really anything, you know, you didn't even want that. So I think if we can say yes to it, we immediately become friends with it, rather than fighting with it and, you know, getting into this resistance state, which is, you know, again, part of our experience is to have resistance. But if we can say yes, things get a little bit gentler. And I believe if you can say yes, particularly to the difficult things, my experience is you still got to go through it. Nothing can take that away. You've got to go through whatever you've got to go through. But if you say yes to it, I think it goes a bit quicker. That's my experience anyway. It goes a bit quicker, and you also enjoy it a little bit more. I think it was the Barefoot Doctor who says, you know, you sort of have to say to yourself, yeah, I'm really angry, but I'm really enjoying it. And it kind of dispels some of that, you know, the resistance. Yeah. Because our feelings are not the problem, it's what we do with them, it's our resistance to them. So sometimes we're frightened of being frightened, and it's not the fear itself that's the problem, it's the fear about being frightened, you know. So if I'm nervous about performing, which as a performer I have to face that all the time, there's always things to get nervous about, and I do get nervous, but if I get nervous about being nervous, and I go, oh no, I'm nervous, that's going to, you know, and that then escalates the whole thing up and up and up. So if I can just sit down with myself and say, as I've seen actually many of my amazing mentors, I've seen them be in the middle of a public performance and say, hey, you know, I feel a bit wobbly, let's just do this, and then I think we'll all feel better. Do you know what I mean? So when we say yes to that, to whatever challenge it is, that then, oh, right, okay, I can acknowledge it. It's just part of my humanity. It isn't a big deal so much.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, saying yes and saying yes and not resisting, because ultimately resistance is futile. I always love to say. I always when I say resistance is futile, I feel like I'm in a film and I'm like the French Gestapo or something. And I'm like, resistance is futile. You know, it's some crazed man. But I think what you're saying and pointing to is just. Yeah, I mean, Rashid Ogillara, as you know as well, you know, it's this idea of, you know, making peace with life and not fighting it, because, you know, whenever you're in resistance, you're just fighting against life, and ultimately life will always win. You know, it's not the fight is actually just within yourself. So it's beautiful what you share there, and as always we can go on. We go so many. As you were speaking, I was listening to you speak and share your passionate expressions and how you've how you deal with that and how you work with others to maybe, as you say, have a bit more of a smoother experience, because I do feel that humanity at the moment are very much rewriting, as I said at the beginning, rewriting our psychology, rewriting our communication skills, rewriting our education system. It seems that everything's up for, which I love and I'm fully excited about, is up for a whole reskin and renewal, or definitely, you know, at least us all taking a little bit of responsibility of how we really want to co-create a reality. If, for the viewers out there watching as well, if you're in that mindset of that you are co-creating reality with your thoughts and your actions and your words, if you're really coming from that place, then that requires an element of responsibility to go, okay, so, you know, how am I showing up? How am I coming into this world? And I was going to ask you a beautiful question, which is, well, I think it's a beautiful question, but, you know who is Katie Rose at this point? Who is she? And you know, why are you doing what you're doing?
Okay, wow. Okay, that's an existential question, isn't it? Who is Katie Rose? Who are we? Well, atoms and particles and energy. Who am I? Well, I'm obviously a collection of energy that decided to get together at this particular point in time to do some stuff. And the stuff seems to be about singing and music and expression. And why that? Because really, at our very core level, we are sound, we are vibration. Every single one of our cells is vibrating. That's how comes we can have ultrasound and see babies with sound, you know. So we are sound, and I think for me that has been my whole thing since I just popped out into this world, that I just feel that sound is such an incredible medium of change and transformation and expression and delight and upliftment, and it's a catalyst if you use it that way, if you choose to use it that way. And I really embrace that in the widest possible spectrum. So you could have someone going to have a mosh at heavy metal, he's getting off his head, he's jumping around, he's releasing all of whatever he needs to release. Fantastic, you know. Or you could have someone listening to classical music and feeling an extraordinary sense of peace. Or, you know, I just think there's a massive spectrum of musical experience, and that's as diverse as every single person on this planet. And therefore we each have this amazing instrument inside ourselves, which we call a voice. And so often we're just going around every day sort of using that every day without realizing, really, because we take for granted, until we have a cough or a cold and we lose our voice, we take for granted that we can just go and say, I need this, can you get this, can I, you know, just all these little commands and instructions and questions and communications all the time. It's constant. And yet people, what I think is so tragic is that people say to me so often, I can't sing, or I can't express myself, or I can't, you know. And that's what's so crazy, is the fact is we are made of sound. We can't not be sound. We are creatures of sound. We're creatures of expression. We're doing it every single minute of our lives, unless we're asleep. But some of us are still talking in our sleep, you know.
or snoring.
Or snoring, exactly. Or at least making sounds with your breath. So we're all making sounds all the time. Even your organs are making sounds. Oh. There we go. So yeah, so
no, let's go back though, because you said something lovely. You said even our organs are sound. Go from there.
Yeah, even our organs are making a sound. So when we get back in tune with that, and we remember that we don't have to be a first-class opera singer. All we have to do is just hum to our body, and our body will receive that. And it doesn't have to be on the right note or this note or that note. It just has to be your voice. Your voice is a powerful instrument of change. Everybody's voice is. And I suppose I realized that very early on. I was lucky to understand that very early on in my life. And I suppose I feel that my mission is to stay connected to that personally myself, in order that I hope and I aspire to support other people and hopefully inspire them or share with them. I'm here to not to tell anybody anything. I don't have a dogma, because I'm here just to support the expression that is needed in each person. And as we were talking about organs, you know, I totally believe and experience that our bodies have this knowing, our voice has this knowing, even the resistance, even the challenges, they all have information for us. They've all got something to say. So if you have a dialogue with, you know, your resistance, with your challenge, with your organs, with it, whatever's going on for you, if you get that communication going, I've just seen it over and over and over again. If we restore that communication, which is just natural, it's inherent, you don't have to go and buy anything for it, it's just inside of us. If you restore that natural connection, then you get all the information that you need to you know, move your life along in the way that you would like to, or to transform whatever it is that's going on. And that's just my lived experience personally, and watching clients do that over and over again. And I can never predict what it is for a client, because it's their own intelligence that's going to give forth the so-called answers. And they're not even about looking for the answers. It's really just about giving voice to what needs to be heard. And I think when we really listen, which busy life doesn't give us so much time to, but if we sit down and make that time just to listen, then boom, you know, we get what we need.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So very happy that I asked you that question, because you've taken it into just, it reminded me of our friend Stuart Pearce as well, with the alchemy of voice and the signature note, and you know, and I have another I met a number of sound healers, sound therapists, you know, people that use sound as a very beautiful way of supporting healing. And what I'm taking from it as well that you shared is, you know, even conversation, even us talking now, each of us have a unique sound, a unique expression, which again is what Stuart Pearce talks about. We have that signature note, as he calls it, doesn't he? And
yeah.
You know, and when we tap into our signature note, you know, our speaking is also our sound. It's our rhythm. You know, we all have this beautiful, unique vibration. And like you also said, everything's vibration. And as you were speaking, it was highlighting something that happens for me when I do sharing circles, and we have these. We hold the space for each individual to be able to communicate what they're feeling in the body first and foremost. And like you beautifully described, is that each part of the body and whatever's going on for us in this present moment, if we just speak from that place. So say, for example, I've got tension in my shoulders, tension in my hand, whatever it might be, my ears are tingling, you know, and I go into that and see what wants to be communicated from that place. And somebody's given me a very safe space and just listening, not with advice and guidance, but just listening. Mm-hmm. Then in that sharing, there is a healing that takes place. And I think sometimes, Katie, people can get a bit scared, or, you know, step back from this whole idea of healing, you know, and, oh, healing, how can I be healed through sound, or how can I be healed through this, that, or the other? But actually, it's healing because it does what you said. It transmutes a blockage or a pain or an anxiety, or, you know, it's just blocked energy, doesn't it? And then it moves it just through that movement of sound. And, you know, I'm sure you use music yourself and different instruments as well to support somebody. Maybe you can speak to that. But it really is a healing that takes place, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a healing. And healing just comes from a word meaning wholeness. If it goes back to a word, to make whole. So really, all you're doing is what we talked about with Rumi's poem, is saying, oh, hello, come and sit down. Come and be part of my whole. Come and be restored. Because quite often what happens with parts of us that have got screened off, and I mean, Jung talks about this very powerfully in terms of the shadow. It's just that quite often parts of us have got kind of put in the dump, as it were. And they were either there because somebody said, no, you can't be like that when you were young. They said, you must jump up and down and be overjoyful. Therefore, you must be quiet. Don't, you know, children are seen and not heard, blah, blah, blah. And so that noisy part of us gets put in the shadow. And then, of course, it doesn't want to stay there very long because it's effusive and it's energetic and it wants to blow up. So then what happens is the next time you get really mad at someone, it blows up, you know, in your face. So when we say to that noisy part of us, come back in, come and be loud, come and jump up and down, come and cause a right riot, that part of us is then restored to wholeness. You know, that becomes part of our whole. And, you know, I think that for me is that reclamation. I think that's what the shamanic people would have talked about as spirit retrieval. There's lots and lots of different traditions around this. And there's lots of different
say there, you said, 1 minute, Katie, you said reclamation. You mean reclaiming your whole? Is it reclaiming? What's reclamation mean?
Yeah, reclaiming parts of ourselves that we have put off limits, you know, and it very much depends on the culture in which we brought up in. You know, you might have, say, one family might be really open about talking about sex, really great, we're talking about that, but can't talk about death. You don't talk about death in the family. So that then is screened off. So that means that child grows up knowing, no, we don't ever talk about what happened to Granny, and we don't talk about, you know, but it might be okay with talking about sex. So you see what I mean? We've all got these different filters and screens on our awareness, where we feel that we can express, and that different parts of us have been said, okay, those are okay, those are my okay parts, I'm allowed to have those on show, I'm not allowed to have these other bits of me on show. So we're all kind of made of these kind of quite layered filters, really, our personality is. And we have to, the process of becoming whole again is actually to bring them all in and to say, come on, my friends, you're all okay. You know, the part of me that is okay with dying and is interested in dying can come back in now. You know, that's all part of it.
Yeah, yeah. No, carry on. I'm just nodding and yeri. Wait there. That deserves. What does that deserve? That's got to deserve a drum roll. Yeah.
I'm going to give you a gong for that.
That's nice. I don't know. I reckon at some point we're going to have some food.
Some food?
There's a cake.
Oh. Yay! It's party time.
I don't eat much cake though. Right there. It's still going off now. Come on. Oh my God. Wait there. I think there's somebody at the door. Wait, give me 5. No, I love that, but just that was out for the live viewers out there. I just want to say hello to you all and thank you so much for tuning in live with us on this Sunday evening with me and Katie. And if you're coming back to watch the preview, then also want to just acknowledge you in this moment as we've been dancing around. I mean, when I have these conversations, that's why I encourage so many people to have them and strike them up and dance, because you know, conversation it's not hard to know that whenever we're feeling down or we're struggling or whatever, we often want to speak to a friend. We want to go and speak to somebody close to us, a loved one, or you know, we love it when we go back. Maybe if we've got a good connection with our family, and it's like we go back to mums or dads, or you know, whatever, and we sit down with them and they just listen and hear us out, whatever it might be. And then afterwards, we feel like, wow, you know, I feel so much better. You know, it's real simple things that I'm pointing to through the power of and again, what Kate is pointing to tonight is this very simple way of just communicating what you're feeling and allowing in all the aspects of yourself, you know, without judging them, as we began the conversation in that state of Katie was talking about, you know, not judging yourself so harshly, and why these conversations for me can support us and support our communities, our family, our intimate relationships, every relationship, you know, our relationship to others and our relationship to our life, is because that's really all you have. I mean, you as an individual, as you're here. If you don't see yourself as a miracle, that doesn't register in your belief system. You don't see yourself as a divine expression of life, you know, just because there's no other creature being created on this planet or ever will be that is, you know, reflecting, or you could say expressing life force as you. If you don't even choose to connect or resonate to that place, you're still here having an experience, whatever that experience is. And your ability to express yourself and integrate these parts of your life will support your journey, whatever it is. Even if you're going through sickness right now, even if you don't know what the hell's going on, even if you're having an existential breakdown, even if you're still addicted to drugs, like, you know, or you're still in those realms where you're feeling lost, conversation and getting into the body, that is the journey back to wholeness. Because and Kate, you can talk a little bit more maybe about wholeness, because I did a talk recently on the Simon on the Sofa with Philip Shepherd. And if you're enjoying this conversation, everybody out there, go and listen to the talk with Philip Shepherd as well, because he actually does this whole process of journey back to wholeness. And again, he was talking about come back to the body, and how we, to some extent, for whatever reason, humans have disconnected from the body, maybe because they don't know enough about it, etc., etc., being so much in the head and really functioning from this sort of head, intellectual, mental state. But when we come back to the body, that's where actually we can really connect more authentically to ourselves and others. So I don't know if you want to speak to anything that come up for you there, Kate. Just go with Katie. Go with what you feel.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to just give you yay! Yay for Simon. That's a 3 for Simon.
Listen, Katie, we've taken the sofa to another level, the sofa hangouts, because this is the first one of 2015, and I've never used the effects, and I've always thought I want to use the effects. So you are the first woman that I've used the Google effects with.
Way, that's even more brilliant. Here you go, have a gong for that.
Oh, man, I'm going to have to wear a tash.
Oh, right. Okay, right, I better find a hat quickly before I answer that. Let's find a new hat to wear. Okay, right, I'll put my crown on. Okay, so I'm feeling very regal now. I've reclaimed
you can feel free to keep your crown on. You look beautiful.
Well, so, like, just coming back to what you said, so, yeah, I mean, the thing is that a lot of people in a lot of different ways are saying all these things. You know, Philip Shepherd, I would definitely go and check that conversation out. There are so many people saying pretty much the same things, just in slightly different language. And I think, and that's just very reassuring, because really, that really there are these core needs within us. And you started this conversation by saying, look, you know, we're all people, we're all human, and whatever we have, even if our experience is very different from each other, which is important to acknowledge as well, we do also have very core similar things. You know, I heard one piece of research that by the time we're 2, so the time we're a toddler, we've experienced every single emotion, human emotion, that you can experience. So, yeah, by the time you're 2. So that means that we've all got that palette of emotions. So I may not have been a heroin addict, but I can imagine and the emotions that might be associated. So I might have had times when I really wanted something so bad, you know, that maybe I knew wasn't good for me, but I've gone after it anyway. You know, I can understand what would motivate someone to become addicted. You know, I might have my own, not addictions, but things that are compulsive for me.
Yeah, you've got habits and cravings and aversions.
We've all experienced those, right? And we've all had to overcome different forms of those. So, and this is where we come into patterning, really. What we're talking there is patterning. We're creatures of patterning, and what we get is, where I started talking about these filters that happen when we're young, and these kind of patterns and belief structures that get built up because of our early experience, because of our early conditioning. So then we get these patterns. So we can imagine them like, whoa, here we go. I've got a pattern here. So let's imagine, okay, I've become a mosaic all of a sudden. So, and now you can't see me exactly. So that really is a very good metaphor for what happens in life, right? We get all these patterns, they come in, and suddenly Katie isn't Katie anymore. She's kind of yellow and green, and I'm all these things that I've probably inherited. Maybe the green bits from my dad, and the blue bits from school, and the red bit was another teacher. So suddenly I've become this pattern of stuff. And me is trying to get through, like, here, where am I, you know? So when I come back to myself, and I try and take all my effects off, and here I am again. So it is that process. I think healing is a lot of process of letting go of things, and that's why it can feel very confronting and scary sometimes for people, and that's why we have to be very supportive, because you have to sort of start taking away things that you thought was you, and it isn't you. You got confused and thought that they were you, and an addiction is a very serious identity thing. It's usually an identity where that person has formed an identity where they say, I can only be me when I'm pissed. I can only be me when I'm high on heroin. I can only access how I want to feel when I have a spliff. And that identity gets built up and built up and built up, that person feels not good enough without that experience. So, and that's where it needs a lot of healing to help people to come back to saying, yeah, look, you don't need that. You just need to be you, and that's okay. That's more than enough.
Right. That's awesome, right there. You know what? That is so awesome. That, you know the deal. Where is it? I gotta give you some goodness there. What we got to have some. I gotta have some trumpet for that. Oh wow! Maybe not that trumpet. Maybe this.
Well, I'm gonna put my party hat on now.
You said it was going to be a party as well, so I'm glad you got your party out. That hat actually suits your earrings.
Oh right, well, thank you.
Your light earrings.
My light earrings, yes.
I'm glad you touched on. Yeah, as you were speaking, I was thinking that at the beginning, as you were speaking, if I just go into that space, because addiction is such a big thing, and something that I love exploring and supporting people with, because we're all, you know, we're all, like you said something really beautiful. We all have these emotions and this knowing, you know, like I've been addicted to drugs, I've drunk alcohol, been addicted to marijuana, you know, I know addiction. And then when I come out of that, and I was even addicted to the ritual of stealing and being a thief, then I started to realize, well, actually, we just move these habits and addictions and think that's who we are, but we move them into other things. So I often use the term, you know, the same style jump, a different color. And we sort of, you know, we move into, you know, for example, with a relationship, or say I've got a habit that's quite extreme, you know, it might be functioning over here and taking a load of drugs, but then it could just move over into the next thing. And actually sometimes it might seem like it's a lot better, but it could actually still be detrimental to what I'm or who I am, and then I can claim or create an identity around that. Yeah. So what you said was really lovely about how we've all had those things at a lesser or more degree, and you know, if I would have continued maybe on the drug path, I might have ended up taking heroin. You know, who knows if I had fallen into that place of you know, cocaine and ecstasy was no good for me anymore. So why not I try a bit of crack? Why not I try a bit of heroin, etc. And it, you know, that, you know, I know people that died on heroin, and I know that people are dying on heroin every day, and whatever, coke, ecstasy. You know, people are dying from yoga. I mean, it just doesn't matter. We're dying every day, right? So, you know, that's irrelevant. But so I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think for people viewing, people listening, often we get so identified, like Katie said, like I need to, you know, I'm only myself. I can only express myself when I've had a glass of wine and a cigarette, because it's social, you know. And what we're pointing to is actually there's a state of inner peace, you know. But what I'm definitely pointing to, and I know that Katie's work, and even, you know, you could say me and Katie, we're a reflection of each other. You know, when we speak, we're always talking about, you know, the where's the truth? What's that? How can I feel, not get pulled along, but actually be in my authenticity? What does it really mean to be authentic? What does it really mean to be in my truth? And I think that what I'm very much pointing to is that there's a state of a more inner equilibrium and inner peace that is not affected or dependent on outside exterior experiences being perceived as good, or being judged as, you know, I'm happy when this happens. It's like you can just be in a state of joy and happiness and peace within yourself, and then still, you know, you have experiences, challenges. I still fall into my own, you know, sadness some days, and challenges and pain body, and, you know, and you know, need a hug and all of this stuff. But I know that deep inside me, when I breathe deeply, when I sit in silence and I just come back to myself, you know, actually everything is okay. You know, I'm okay. And actually in that place as well, you can transcend even the concept, the man-made concept of, you know, past, future, life, death, and so on. Because again, this idea of loss, this idea of I'm not going to be somebody, I'm not going to achieve something, or I don't want to die. You know, at the core of all addiction and fear and suffering and even crime, when I was a criminal, is this idea of fear. And at that core of fear, what is fear? If we think about it, it's the fear that I'm gonna die, I'm gonna lose something. And ultimately, all of our challenges often, I don't know, Katie, speak to this a little bit from your perspective and working with clients and so on. But at the core, which is sort of, you've mentioned a little something about this today already, but there's a fear, you know, it's a fear of something that is either holding us back or dictating our choices.
Yes, yeah, it can be fear. Can also be a trauma. You've quite often got a trauma, an experience that's still living with us, and we haven't dealt with it. So quite often there's a trauma which is generating usually a fear, or it can be anger, it can be a number of emotions around that trauma. So yeah, when we do have to sometimes just go back and deal with what's being held still, and fear is an attachment of a sort, because as you're pointing to, it's really about having this sense of an identity and wanting to hold on to that in a certain place. Whereas in other cultures, because I mean, this is very much, we're talking from a Western point of view as well, which is very much the I, the big I, the me, is very much a Western thing. In other cultures, we would have maybe a very different sense of what I was, you know, and if it was existence at all, actually. So I think when there's less I, we've got less fear, because the stakes aren't so high and we're not so invested in I'm this, I've got to do this, I've got to keep my reputation, I've got to look good in front of my mates, I've got to, you know, I've got to be a good girl or a good boy or whatever it is, or the opposite even, you know, I've got to be a rebel in order to justify my existence. So whatever I've created, fear is going to come up when that gets threatened, and it's going to get threatened all the time because life is much bigger than our little I. It's much, much bigger and it's much wider. So yeah, we have to practice stretching that, and yet it's a paradox really, because as people, in order to function well and to feel nourished and affirmed and supportive, we also need to have a healthy sense of I, and we need to be able to feel that people appreciate us, that we feel loved, that we have that level of connection to our authenticity as well, because we all know how that we're human and that we need hugs and we need affirmation, and that sense of I and that sense of affirmation and support is really, really important. So I think it's a double process, I feel, in the healing work. There's firstly this sense of, yes, you have to be ready to let go of all your I's, all your constructs, and let go, but what you get is this incredible affirmation and nourishment at your core for who you really are, and for who people really see you as, and for who you see yourself as ultimately, and even beyond perspective. I mean, I just read an amazing story of a woman who recovered from intense sexual abuse, intense, and she spoke about one of her practices being looking at herself in the mirror and connecting every day with her authentic self, just looking at herself, being with herself, that was one of the things that got her through. So it was that affirmation of her self at a different level to the self where she was trying to get, you know, she said she'd been trying to fill that gap with all sorts of outside things, but when she actually came back to her authenticity, just herself, one-on-one with the mirror, that started rebuilding, you know, she'd had vast trauma, like just horrific horror story trauma. So I think that's the work to be done, that we need that deep level affirmation, we need that deep soul nurture. It's like even Mick Jagger said it, you need what you need rather than what you want. Yeah, what you want, you think you want the fame, you think you want the drugs, you think you want the next box of chocolates. Actually what you need is the deep affirmation of your real self that you're hungry for. It's a deep soul hunger, and it's a soul hunger to be recognized, yes, by others, but mostly first and foremost by yourself. You need to be able to see yourself in the mirror and be able to say, okay, I see you, I see you, I see me, I see you, that kind of sense.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, beautiful. It's that, yeah, I see you, and it's that, you know, ultimately we're born in connection, and we break off and we suffer in disconnection, and then we're healed in reconnection. It's like coming back to reconnection, isn't it? Coming back to that really going inward and seeing who you are, looking in that mirror. It's so much. I mean, there's so much. I love everything that we shared. There's so much, and again, I've got this word education is keep popping up in my head as we're talking, and it feels like, and definitely this is just definitely from my perspective anyway, is that for whatever reason, and I always use that term for whatever reason, because I don't know what is the one way that, you know, the human experience should or shouldn't be experienced. You know, I'm just experiencing it the way that I'm experiencing it, and going out there and exploring and asking questions and following the mystery and following the things that pop up that feel true to me. But I do feel that, you know, a lot of what we're talking about now, even in this, you could call it new, I don't want to say new time, but just where we are as a human species in evolution, is that so much of, yeah, you could say it's been around, you know, for 6,000 years, 3,000 years, people have been talking about it since the beginning of time, whatever. But just on a mass scale, it seems that from an education perspective of like a real way of us getting to know ourselves was never really told to us. You know, we never really were told about, you know, our psyche and our emotions, and that we could, you know, when we're feeling really stressed, we could just shake and release ourselves. And, you know, we've sort of like, we've never actually been given real, you could say important rucksack of tools, you know, to go out there in life and like, hey, all right, you've arrived. Okay, you're going to need this. Take this rucksack. There's going to be a couple of tools in there, a couple of things that you can, skills that you can use, and then go on, be off with you. Good luck, you know. And don't forget, you can ask anyone along the way if you get stuck, you know, for example. And it just feels that that's what definitely I'm sort of, whenever I do a workshop or a sharing circle or one-on-one or whatever, you know, whatever I do with people, is I'm also just sharing the tools that I've picked up along the way that have supported me to be more true to myself. And I just feel that if our generation and the generation after us and so on, and we keep serving from that more place of authenticity and love and awareness, I can see clearly how, you know, civilization, if we don't wipe out, are gonna transform.
Yeah. And what does education mean? The original word meant to draw out. So really, the premise of education really needs to be that you focus on bringing out the best in that person, their own resources. And that's what empowerment is, you know, in that old thing, you know, don't give a person a fish, give them a fishing rod, so they can go and get their own fish. So that all of those things that we know that are much said have truth to them, that we have to, that education needs to be more about self-awareness, self-understanding, self-connection. You know, wouldn't it be amazing? And I know it's coming because I hear people talking about it, but, you know, wouldn't it be amazing if everybody had just 5 minutes in the day in their workplace, in the school, to just be quiet and connect, firstly with themselves and then with each other. And if you started everything from that place, I mean, for me personally, you know, I've always had this thing that I would love to see all the UN leaders and all the political meetings start with everybody singing together, because singing creates this unity, and that they sing in, you know, in everybody's language, and so that because it just creates this sense of connection. That's not going to take away difficulty, challenges, differences. And that's not the idea. We're not trying to make a homogenous everybody the same, because that would be dull, be really, really dull. But what we do need to keep doing is coming back to this sense of shared connection, that we are all here in this time-space moment having a human experience together. Therefore, that makes, just that fact means that we have some sort of connection to each other. So, you know, that connection, those connecting practices, if everybody could have access to something that had no dogma around it, it would be so liberating. And I think it's coming, because I hear people talking about, yes, we do that with the kids at school, yes, we, you know, right. Yes, we're getting yoga at work, yes, we, you know, so there is this movement, yeah, and I just hope it's fast enough.
Yeah. Well, no, but what you're saying again is it doesn't even have to be fast enough, because I think that what we're saying is that we're having a conversation about it now, so it's out there, right? It's already in there. If you and I are having this conversation and these feelings and thoughts are already being projected out there into the universe, then you know that on a mass scale, other people have been projecting them out there. And I mean, ultimately, that's why so many systems are crumbling. It's why we're talking. Yeah, as Charles Eisenstein talks about in his book, The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible, we know that if anything, sometimes there's probably, for a lot of people maybe listening as well, there's an impatience, because, you know, depending on what stage you're at, you know, you look out in the world and you see a whole heap of suffering and trauma and so on, because that seems to be what's projected to you on a day-to-day basis through the media. But I can say from my world, I don't see that. You know, I look out the window and I see the stars and the birds singing and the moon, and I see the fields, and I see the farmers, and I see, you know, I see the divinity in the eyes of another, and I see love, and I see joy, and I see I wake up and I have gratitude for my life, and I share gratitude with everybody else in my life, and you know, and I meet people as a humble guest, and I'm curious about people in life, and I get that interaction back, and I don't read the newspapers or watch the news, and, you know, and I'm very selective of where I go online in terms of where information might take me. So in my world is full of beautiful relationships, beautiful communication, and it fills me up. You know, my practices, they're all around sound, and, you know, I om and make sounds, yummy oms. I do a yummy om to every food that I eat. You know, I go yummy, Oh, right, you know, and sometimes depending on who's with me, we might do different sounds. So everything you're sharing today, these the first time you're doing might think, well, stupid. Why am I doing, you know, why am I doing gratitude? Or that sounds a bit weird. But it's actually just this bringing this deeper respect and gratitude of life. And the minute that you enter that, you see yourself as this. You're grateful for yourself and this, all the gifts that you've got. You only start to see the beautiful gifts of the world, you know.
Yeah, it's true. And perspective, you know, everything is about where we put our attention, isn't it? And wherever you put your attention, you know, wherever you put your focus, that's going to be more apparent to you and, you know, more relevant as well. And it's very important that we make very conscious choices, you know, in terms of what we digest and put in and out of ourselves. It's really, really important. And I think that quite often, again, we've been conditioned to think that, no, I don't have a choice over that. So I'm just unconsciously consuming and absorbing all sorts of things that may or may not be actually that great for me. But when you kind of wake up to actually, well, actually, no, actually, that doesn't feel so good in my body. That's a little bit toxic. Hanging out with that person makes me go off on one. You know, those kind of signs, when we start getting those signals, that then we can, yeah, become attuned. It is tuning in, and again, that's a musical thing, but when we're really tuning in to our own music, then we start singing our own song, and we're not so bothered about, okay, what's he singing over there? It doesn't matter. It's not so much, does he like my song? No, I'm just singing my song. I might go over there and sing with him for a bit. I might not. I might just carry on singing my song. So, you know, it's that whole tuning in process that makes us feel empowered and connected, and you're talking beautifully. You know, for you, your song is yummy oms and gratitude, and you know, you're singing a beautiful song. I can see Simon's going along with his song, and he's not, and Simon is choosing not to let someone else come and go, you know, really loudly in his ear, you know, and so it's making choices, and the thing is just empowering people and empowering ourselves constantly to remember we have choice, because so often we feel like we get in this state where we think, oh, I've got no choice, I've got to do this, I have to, I should, I must, you know, and actually we've always got choice, and that's radical, because then we are radically responsible, and that's sometimes where we don't. That's very, very hard as human beings to really wake up to, how our real responsibility, how we are completely responsible for our choices and what we're creating.
Right.
And a really hard one. It's a really hard one to take on the chin, because it's much easier to be a victim, it's much easier to be a martyr, and it's much easier to sit in bed and go, oh no, poor me, the world is getting at me, you know. We've all had those days where you hid under the duvet and didn't want to come out, but it's actually, it's finding, but when you find your choice, that's what's going to propel you out of bed in the morning. And for me, that's what makes me get up in the morning, is knowing that I've got choices, that I can choose to do something great with my day, or I can just chill out or whatever. But it's just making choices and feeling that those choices are making a contribution, and to knowing that it doesn't matter. You don't have to be out there, you know, with a protest banner, and it doesn't have to look a certain way to make a contribution. You can make a contribution just by being you, just by making a cup of tea for your, you know, your next door neighbor. You're making a contribution every moment of the day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're making it regardless.
Yeah, regardless. So when we understand that, that's very empowering. It's also a bit scary because of the responsibility, but it's very, very empowering. And then there's this wealth. You know, you touched on it earlier about financial challenges, things like that. So often when we're having financial challenges, it's because we're not sure about where our contribution is. And when our contribution is really obvious, there will always be, particularly because contribution usually involves making a difference to somebody's life, you know. If you're working in a restaurant, you're making a contribution to people, you're feeding them. They need to be fed, you know. The people are always going to be hungry, they're always going to want to eat. So you're making a contribution, and how you make that contribution is you know, is key to...
Yeah, and I think I just want to throw in there that from it's how to make a conscious contribution, because what you said there is really, you know, awesome around, you know, yeah, the responsibility is damn scary. You know, it's a great point, and for people out there listening, you know, man, you know, I've run away from the responsibility some days, totally run away from it, and thought, you know, ignorance is bliss. Why did I even start opening my eyes? You know, some days I'm just like, because, you know, the responsibility is, you know, you can go through waves where you can almost take on too much responsibility, put too much on your shoulders, and, you know, and you can feel bogged down and lost, and, you know, and what I'm doing even helping, and what's the point, and everybody else seems to be doing a lot better than me, and you know, and all this other victim mentality can still creep in even when you decide to take responsibility. So I'm really glad that you brought up that. But also, as you said earlier, from the paradoxical place, when you do take that responsibility and go, well, I am a conscious contributor to life, yeah, and today I make that choice. I'm just making that choice that whatever I do today, whatever it is, if it's like you said, make a cup of tea, whatever, it's almost like what permaculture says, Katie, which is think, act local, think global, right? That's one of their sayings. So, you know, so you can be thinking like, you know, more for Genesis. You can be thinking that everything I do has a ripple in the whole universe. You can be thinking about, you know, global transformation, or you could be thinking that, wow, everybody's going to wake up for themselves and be dancing around in inner joy, right? And then you can think to yourself, okay, first and foremost, I've got to get on with the postman.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, or the car park attendant.
Yeah, especially if that person is really difficult and has really rubbed you up the wrong way, you know. And let's face it, we all have conflict, and we all encounter people who are not in resonance with us. And I think that that's another part of these conscious choices that we can choose, and I've seen that, and I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen even in myself. You know, sometimes I've gone down this whole, right, I'm going to exclude everything that, you know, doesn't serve me or whatever. But actually, you can't control life. You just become a control freak if you're just I'm trying to control all my food and all my things, and I'm, you know, I'm not watching the news, and I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. It's all these no's piled up, and then of course you bump into someone on the street and you're trying so hard to be good, and then you have a blazing row with them because you're trying so hard to hold on, you know, so I think that it's really that we have to remember our humanity all the time, keep coming back to our humanity, that we are really human, and that we're constantly, you know, so-called tripping up. I'm constantly slipping on banana skins in my life, and I have to constantly be being humbled by that and welcoming that and saying, okay, right, here we go, this has just shown me, yes, you're maybe I've some things I may feel proud about, or I may feel, okay, I've got somewhere with that, but there's still going to be a lot of other places where I'm still learning, and I don't have it all wrapped up, and that's the whole point. I wouldn't be alive if I did, you know. I really believe that if I'd done everything I was supposed to do and learned anything, I would be dead, you know. There'd be nothing more to stick around for. So I've got to, you know, I've got to embrace what life throws at me, bananas and all. So
yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to slip on the banana skins, and no matter what. If you're not slipping on the banana skins, you're not actually experiencing life to this. So yeah, okay, awesome. So yeah, let's just do what you suggested earlier, which is beautiful. Just breathe for a moment, and just, I know that just an hour has flown by, and so much richness in this conversation. But I'm just going to breathe and take a few deep breaths together. Yeah, I get so excited. I feel like all this energy coming up past my solar plexus up to my chest, and you know me. I get excited, and sometimes I drop I don't even finish sentences. I'm just like, yeah, you know, I'm just off, and then like, where's the next one go? Where do we go from here, and so on. So it's nice just to check in. So yes, I just want to know where are you at, and how are you feeling in terms of, is anything from a place of completing this beautiful conversation, is there anything that you feel that you would like to share for people out there? Is there anything that you want to share from yourself, maybe of a tool you use or an exercise you use, anything that comes up that you just feel that you'd like to sort of complete this conversation for the beautiful viewers out there, and people that will come to this talk along the year, throughout the year?
Great. Okay. Yeah, I guess I come back to it over and over and over again, and it's just that very simple thing of setting intention. And seeing as we started with the new year, you know, at the beginning, and here we are at the new year, you know, an intention for me is much more powerful than a resolution. A resolution is usually about, well, it suggests that there's been a problem that needs a solution, whereas an intention is just a positive thing to hold. And I teach, you know, for me, it's just a tool that I use over and over and over and over again. You know, one example I just use for my own life is that last year I performed at the Union Chapel in front of hundreds of people for an amazing event about a film called Road to Peace about the Dalai Lama, which I was honoured, absolutely honoured to be there. And, you know, I was the only woman on the stage amongst some highly, highly extraordinary men of, you know, very high standing and very amazingness, let's say, just completely amazingness. So I could really have lost myself in nervousness. You know, there was a great opportunity there to just go crazy with the nerves. And what held me there was that they asked me, and I'm so grateful for this, they said, please will you stand up and say, you know, why you're here and what you feel, you know, is important to you. And I'm so glad that I had to do that, because it made me, that's a process I would do anyway for any performance, any act of service. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? What is my intention? And my intention in that moment was so clear. I was so clear that I was there for the Dalai Lama, to pay my respects to him and to the Tibetan people who are going through monstrous atrocities and traumas, you know, probably beyond anything that I can imagine. And that I was, in some humble way, just wanting to offer my service and my voice for them in that particular moment, and particularly for the people who had self-immolated. I was particularly aware of those particular people, and so that strength of that connection and that knowingness that that's why I was there meant that any kind of ego nonsense I could have run on myself about, oh, this and that, and being self-conscious and being worried about how it looked and how it was going and blah, 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 all that stuff that goes on, that all just disappeared. There just wasn't room for it, because the intention was so strong, and it was such a sacred, such an honor to be there in that moment, in that space. So all I know is that when we hold those intentions, those clarities, and it can be so simple, you just need to know when you're making that cup of tea for that person that it's with love and it's for them in that moment, with the love that you want to give them. That's your intention, flowing right through everything you do. And if you can stay aligned to that, it will blast out all the other stuff. It really does. It's so quick and it's so simple. Just holding to that clarity and that's where our authenticity is. It's not in all the jumbled up stuff. Our authenticity is in what we're here to do as people, what our mission is. We've all got one, and it doesn't have to be a big banging a drum number. It just is being you and being who you're really meant to be in this moment. So there you go.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I've got a drum to bang. I love you. Easy. There's somebody else knocking the door. I keep having people. Always knock when you're busy, you know. People. I've left about 4 people outside. It's all going off. Sounds good. Sounds like the cash register. Must be people. It must be people donating to the sofa. Easy. There's a plug.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you for that little summary about intention and just that vibration of showing up with a loving intention. In fact, I was just pondering as you were speaking. I was thinking, I wonder what I name this talk. I always come to the end of these beautiful conversations like, what to name these? And we just danced everywhere. We've just danced around the whole of, to some extent, the human experience, the human psyche, and where we are, and the challenges that we have. And I think I just want to close maybe on saying that for people out there, the why is really important. Why are you doing what you're doing? You look in the mirror each day, you say, who am I today? And why am I doing what I'm doing? How am I showing up in life? For me, that changes everything. That really gives me clarity of, like, you know, why do I want truth in the world? And when Katie talks about Tibet and you know, we can talk about however many hundreds of wars that are going on around the world, and you know, we know that there's a lot of violence and abuse and ignorance and all this other stuff that's going on. And ultimately, that's there because there is an unawareness, lack of truth. You know, as the lack of compassion and understanding. There's most wars and conflicts and all of this other crap that goes on is actually just because often two people want the same thing or can't communicate the same thing that they're dealing with. They're struggling, they're scared, they're uncertain. Because they can't communicate that, don't know how, they fall into that place of fear, and then conflict arises. And you see this in relationship, you see this in, you know, micro, macro. As it's happening within you, it's happening on a mass scale. So for me, if you really want to, you know, heal the world as such per se, or at least support humanity and maybe being a bit more kind to themselves and to the planet, then to do the work within yourself and then be the living embodiment of that vibration really is the key. So wherever you are in the world, don't get to laugh a little like me and Katie have tonight, you know, and we're laughing. I mean, we're privileged. We're privileged, in the, you know, we're very privileged in the West as well. You know, in many respects, more so than we actually think. So, you know, I don't have a war on my doorstep. You know, I do have water in my house. So, you know, I have a place to live. It's the, you know, we're very privileged. So we're doing. There is an element of. There's a mission I'm on. I do speak to that. I'm having fun, but there is a mission I'm on, and it could be my own self-created mission. You know, that I want the world to be in my own view or my utopian vision. It could be to some extent, could be quite you know, egoic. You know, to some extent, like I want the world to be how I want it to be. But if I'm the grand creator of my reality, which I say I am, then I want to do whatever I can so that there's more truth and love in the world, so that people don't starve to death, so that we don't use all the food, waste the food over here in the West that could feed Africa. You know, I mean, that's just ludicrously insane. There's ludicrous things happening. Women are getting abused, mentally slavery is going on still. You know, there's so much madness going on out there, which just doesn't have to exist in my understanding of it. So there is a mission, and I know that Kate is on it too on many different respects, and I know that you may be watching this, and many other people out there are serving that beautiful mission together. We are not alone, and yeah, that's just that's what's come through now. So you're amazing. So are you, Katie.
So are you, Simon. Thank you very much for inspiring all of us and for keeping, you know, this is like a channel of communication that you're keeping open for all of us. Oh, look, and you've got a fantastic beard. Well done. Hooray! Hooray for Simon's beard.
Don't tell anyone yet. I was going to do my last setup and you gave it away.
Oh, sorry, of course, I forget.
Okay. Go on, carry on. Say what you're saying. Let's say goodbye. I'm just having so much fun with you. You better say goodbye to people, I suppose.
Well, that's the important. I think that's the wonderful thing, is that there is, even in the most crazy of, and you know, all of the things you've talked about are deeply serious and deeply, you know, and we have to be aware daily. I think it's so important to daily be aware of the level of privilege that we have, and to be therefore saying, okay, if I have this level of privilege, then I need to make a contribution. And that's what I'm always up against. And it's not in the sense of self-beating, but the sense of, okay, how can I contribute today? What can I do that's going to make a shift for myself, firstly, and then how does that, you know, hopefully make a contribution in the world? And when we know that, when we're on that, which I know so many people are, and I do believe that there is more of us that want that than the people that don't want that. And I think that I do believe that all wounds can be healed. I know that's a crazy thing to say when you look at the world, but I do believe that they can. And I don't know what that looks like, because it's not for me to know. I'm, like you said, I'm not in control of the world. It doesn't conform to my, you know, what I think it should look like. And I'm not the one to say what it should look like. But I know that I see people change. I see people heal. I see people transform. I see people moving on and doing fantastic work in this world. And I know that goes on to create change and ripples out into communities and across the world. And I mean, that's why I work with Water Aid, because I know that even if I just contribute £15 to WaterAid, that's going to give one person clean water for life, for absolutely their whole life. That's a life saved. So there are all these very simple ways that we can all make a contribution, and we can all grow together. So here's to growing together for 2015, and here's to saying thank you so much again, yay, for Simon and the communication that he makes possible for all of us. Bless you, bless you. Oh, look.
I had to leave town because, you know, the ship was calling me. But we're just crazy tonight. This is awesome. I love being crazy. So to the people out there, to all you pirates of consciousness, all I can see is the oneness and the one conscious I that I have. So we have to go, as much as we're having so much fun. If you've watched this far, I really have a lot of respect and honouring for you. If you've come this far to see me as a pirate, then that's it. We have deepened our connection. Kate, you better talk. What are you up to over there?
I am somewhere in the river somewhere, I think. I'm just going to put my hat on. There's my party hat.
Amazing. I think this is a beautiful opportunity to say goodbye. Look under the video for links to Katie's website and any way that you want to engage with Simon on the sofa, and follow the conversations that I've recorded. And yeah, wherever you are in the world, thank you so much for, out of all the things that are out there to choose from a media perspective, you've hung out with me and Katie tonight. Katie, it's been an absolute pleasure to hang out with you to the beginning of the new year, and I look forward to speaking to you for the rest of the year, and I wish you amazingness, whatever you choose to do, wherever the path leads, and just thank you for showing up tonight, and lots of love to you.
Thank you very much, Simon. Lots of love to you and blessings, and thank you, everyone. And yeah, feel free to be in touch with us. Write to us. Tell us what you made of all of this and your questions and your thoughts, because I know that's so rich. And keep the dialogue. Let's just keep the dialogue awake. It's so beautiful. So thank you, Simon. Blessings for 2015.
Bye.